Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
How's it going?
And today we're talking about volume 16 of To Your Eternity. Great to be back talking about this again. I think the break that's been between this one and our volume 15 discussion was almost just as long as our break between our two most recent Kaguya-sama discussions. It's like almost 4 months or something like that. But hey, it's great to be back. This really has become one of my favorite series like ever, like manga series or just fictional works ever to me lately. I think this current arc is just really bringing like some new, really interesting content, and I adore it so much.
Absolutely. This volume had a lot of kind of out there moments,
Uh-huh.
from Mizuha's kind of messed up mind right now
Yeah.
to what freaking Yuki discovered. like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of little bits and pieces that comes together in this volume.
Absolutely, it's so exciting. And I guess one thing I want to say before we get into the character discussions is about the volume's cover art. Is just I think it's like a really good one. It's probably one of my favorite To Your Eternity volume covers at this point. And I feel like, well, at least the way I'm interpreting the visuals on it is that it's kind of, well, it's like a visualization of Mizuha and slash or the Nokker inside her that's like,
Mm,
it's like kind of slowly kind of dragging Fushi into despair or kind of pulling him into a dark place.
mm-hmm.
Which obviously this volume deals with a lot. I think the very end of the volume kind of leaves it at a bit of a higher note,
Right.
but at least the majority of the volume is largely about that, and I just love how that's kind of represented on the volume cover art. It's beautiful, and it's also a beautiful artwork.
Yeah. I haven't looked at it too closely, but
Mm.
I'll definitely look at it again. From what I saw, it looked really nice.
Yeah, it really does.
I found that when I first read it, I was a little, well, not a little, I was a lot confused. Like,
Ah,
because it was hard to keep track of who is speaking, who is not speaking. Like, is this a
mm.
knocker? Is this a regular person? It was kind of hard to understand exactly all the plot threads that were going on. And not to say it's necessarily deep, convoluted, intertwined, but it was just sometimes hard to follow. Because the character you think is dead is actually still alive, and uh, knocker shenanigans. But yeah, the second read through, it was a lot clearer, and maybe it
Absolutely.
was just my mindset for the first one, and because it had been such a long time since I had read To Your Eternity, it it took it took me as a shock to see everything that was happening.
Mm,
But
mm.
then the second read through, okay, I understand. I remember again what was happening in the story. This makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely, and I agree. I also felt that way on in a couple of scenes on my first read through, but it's still clear enough that you'll understand it if you just, I guess, if you
Yeah,
just think about it a little more, and once you've read it maybe an extra time or something like that.
yeah.
So yeah, it's still very solid.
Although I do still feel a bit of confusion,
Hmm.
or maybe ambiguity is the correct word,
Ah,
with Mizuha and her knocker. Just who's who, and like who is in control at what time.
right.
Especially in that last couple chapters, it
True.
seems like it goes in and out.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, I can agree there.
Yeah,
But yeah, we'll talk more in depth about that in a little bit.
sure.
But yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And one really quick thing I'll say before we get into the discussions now is that I have a bit of a cold, so I apologize if I sound different or if I happen to cough or sneeze or anything. I'm gonna do my best to cut out any coughing and stuff like that as best I can. But yeah,
Hmm.
just letting everyone know that I have a pretty annoying cold. It was much worse yesterday. It was really bad yesterday, but it's definitely better today though. So all is good. But let's start by talking about Fushi. He tells Mizuha in the first chapter in this volume, he says, "Don't try to control me." And that reminded me of that woman we talked about in volume 9 who accused Fushi of trying to control him or
Oh,
trying to control her
interesting.
when he just tried to give her money. And I think, like, I'm not sure exactly how much related that actually is. However, I think at least Fushi understands that woman better now. Like he has now kind of experienced a not identical, but a at least a somewhat similar kind of feeling. I think. Plus, there is also the parallel to be made that Mizuha might not actually be trying to control Fushi, like potentially, and like if that's the case, like like because in the instance in Volume 9, Fushi wasn't actually trying to control the woman there, and so if Mizuha isn't trying to control Fuji, maybe he's just misinterpreting her, then that's, I guess, a similarity to that instance in Volume 9. I don't know.
Mm.
Did you think about this at all, or am I? Do you think I'm digging too deep?
I don't know. I did think it was a funny thing to say, or not, maybe not necessarily a funny thing, but
Hmm.
maybe it's something that sticks out, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure why it stuck out. And I guess maybe I should have thought of it more, but I do think that what Misaha wants from Fushi is something that is being forced upon him, and so in that sense,
Yeah.
it can be viewed as controlling.
Yes.
Um, and I think that him saying that to her when she grew up with a controlling mother uh,
Hmm.
could potentially be impactful. But then again, I can't remember, was Misaha here, or was the Knocker driving at that
I
time?
think she had recently gotten back into being Mizuha.
She changed to Misaha. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it. So I think him saying that, I mean, that should resonate.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what
True.
she felt like with her mother?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Plus, I think it's definitely true that Mizuha is in some way controlling Fuji, because I think there's been instances in at least the previous volumes where she has been acting manipulative toward him, and that
Mm-hmm.
is in a sense her trying to control him. However,
Mm.
I'm not convinced that she's doing it like on purpose. Like it might just be something
Mm.
like, oh yeah, sure, it's just as bad either way technically, but it might just be something that she's like, well, as you said, like she's been raised in that kind of an environment with her mother, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe her acting manipulative towards someone else just comes naturally because that's just how she has seen people act toward her, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe she's just copying what or how she was raised. At the same time, I think she has a lot of. Anyway, this is supposed to be a Fushi. We're talking about Fushi.
Oh, that's right. You're absolutely. Yeah. So, but speaking of Fushi in that scene, though, at about that moment, he something I really respect him for in this volume, which happened, something that occurred at least on 3 occasions, was how he has kind of learned finally to put his foot down when it comes to Mizuha. Like
Mm.
in that first chapter, he smacked her hand away and just really like took a step away from her, and kind of just
Mm-hmm.
really showed that very clearly. And then there was also the moment pretty shortly after that when he said that he didn't want to wear the clothes that she had bought him. Um, and at the end of the volume, he just kind of left her on the street without settling her problem at that moment, which I think
Mm-hmm.
all these kind of show that he doesn't allow himself to get kind of swooped into her manipulation anymore,
Mm.
or at least he has learned. Well, he has improved, I think, in that at the very least. Um, that said, though, of course, he's still very much determined to help her, which is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Especially in those moments where he kind of just realizes, wow, you're really far gone, but I'm not gonna give up. That's okay. I'm
Hmm.
gonna keep trying.
Yeah,
And yeah, I respect that in him, even
for
when it
sure.
seems like I mean, he has a few allies who are very much willing to keep trying, but it does feel like at some point that is this even the right thing to be doing?
Mm.
There is that great kind of moral conflict here that is unique for this story, or this situation at least.
Hmm.
Um, and actually, on that, I liked how he was really conflicted on whether killing the Knockers was the right thing to do. He had
Yeah.
to go to Bon and just say, "Am I doing the right thing? Like, should we just coexist with them?" And
Mm.
and it took him a while to come to a conclusion that or I mean, I don't think he's quite reached the conclusion. He's still thinking of how he wants to do it, but
Right.
he's has the resolve to get it done. Like he wants to create a world without knockers. He
Yes.
still wants that. But I like that the kind of conflict he had.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it too, because it's such a contrast to what the story has been before, like the modern era. Like I'm really enjoying like his struggle with the knockers, since it's like it's not like that kind of epic fantasy struggle that he had like in the Renreal arc, and well
Mm-hmm.
before that too. It's almost like a psychological thriller now in a way,
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
or at least more so than before. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just really interesting, and I think gives way for a lot of thought provoking moments and stuff like that. So I absolutely love it. And let's talk about what you were saying before, and how he's kind of come to terms with, or kind of, well, he has kind of reaffirmed his view on the Nokkers. I think that was made especially clear in his conversation with Satoru, or
Mm-hmm.
with the Beholder.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the better thing to call him now, by the way, the Beholder or Satoru?
The beholder Satoru.
Yeah, well, okay, there we have it. That's good. Or Satoru the Beholder.
That works
Hmm.
too.
Oh, hmm. But anyway, yeah, yeah, just really enjoying the like thematic changes, I guess that this arc is bringing.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder what the whole message, at least what part of the message Oima's, I guess, trying to convey here. Not that when when you create a story, you are trying to get out a message, but to me, it feels like the experience that all these people are going through, the pains
Mm.
that they're going through. I think Fushi and the rest of the people are learning that pain is part of life.
Yeah,
It's part of who we are. An emotion that makes us who we are.
yeah,
And I think just trying to take away that pain is it makes us less human. Um, and so perhaps that's the message that she's trying to get through that. And the knockers say that Fushi hates pain, but maybe Fushi will come to the understanding that pain is necessary, but not. It's not so
mm.
much that. And I don't want to make it sound like, oh yes, we should be terrible people to one another or whatever. But it's
No,
just painful things happen, um,
yeah,
for whatever reasons, and to try to end all that by killing yourself is not the way to go about it. And I think Fushi understands that, but maybe he comes to a greater appreciation of the things we can learn from pain,
mm.
um, if we take the correct steps to improve and seek help and whatnot.
Absolutely. And like on that, Bonchin had a very good quote in this book where he said, "Even if it pains an individual to live, that life along with that pain is still one's own. No one else should be the stand-in for that. One must acknowledge all that one feels to fully be affirmed in one's own existence."
Mm.
Which I think kind of sums up at least partially what this arc is trying to convey, like as like, well, as far as like a message goes, but because
Mm-hmm.
I think there is that message to find in this arc, because as you said, like there are a lot of people with various kinds of mental illnesses
Mm-hmm.
that we meet in this arc here, and it's just kind of how do we deal with that, and how do we live with that.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's really important in the physical books, at least. Every book, I think, since this arc began, have had like a warning about, like, warning sensitive readers about well,
Mm.
suicidal thoughts and stuff being brought up in the volumes, as well as like phone numbers to like helplines and stuff like that. Um,
It's heavy material.
it really
It,
is.
it really is.
But I think Oima deals with it really well. Like the messages that she conveys through the story are just really good messages, and I think, well, I hope that it can help people that maybe
Mm.
go through things like this.
I have more to say on that when we get to a character later on, if that's okay.
Absolutely, for sure. So yeah, more on Fushi.
I'm glad he remembers to live with the people who care for him at the end.
Yes, yeah, I
Uh,
was so happy.
you know, he obviously he was missing them, but for the past 2 or 3 volumes, he's just kind of been fighting it. He's like, no, I can't let them. I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna start expressing himself or well, telling him about his fears about the knockers, but at least he's gonna be there with him and enjoy his life in that way.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm excited for that.
Very excited. And actually, on that, and also what we were talking about a little like right before that, the teacher guy, he said something that I thought was very true, and I think also just very important for everyone kind of to keep in mind. He said, "Don't forget there are people worrying about you, even if they don't say so." And he was saying that technically to Funa, or because that's who he thought he was talking to,
Right.
but I think it was also good for Fushi here because it well, at least I hope that or well, no, I think that it reminded him of his friends that do deeply care about him and that actively want to help him if they just, if he just gives them the chance.
Mm-hmm.
So So yeah, hoping to see that happen in the next volume.
Absolutely. Ah, next volume. It's gonna be a while.
Yeah, it will. But hey, it'll be worth it.
Oh yeah, totally. I was a little upset that he slapped Tonari's hand, but he kind of is like he was in the mindset where he can't let the Knockers ruin their perfect life or whatever. So I
Mm.
get it, but it was like, come on, like she's trying to help. I was just kind of like, that wasn't cool, but I
Yeah,
I understand.
right. No, I definitely agree there. It was a sad moment because she really put effort into trying to reach out to him.
Right.
And
Yeah.
oh well.
And then lastly, when he becomes Funa and just hands out the hair ties, the whole chapter was really silly because when you're first reading it, you're not quite sure who. Honestly, I was very confused about the Funa. Like I was like, who
Hmm.
exactly is this? And there was a moment where it was a close up on Funa's face. It's like that kind of looks like Fushi.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the chapter was like, oh my gosh, that was Fushi. What the
Mhm.
heck?
True. I actually I was pretty sure it was Fushi from the beginning since
Ah,
we knew that Funa's not like the knocker in Funa had been killed, so it couldn't have been the knocker Funa.
right.
Like the
But
like
that's why I was so confused. I just didn't understand what was going on.
fair.
Uh, like
Yeah.
even when Funa appeared, I just added to more of my confusion. But we'll get to that later.
Right, right.
Um, I just thought it was funny that he was handing out the hair ties, and I guess in the end it kind of worked out, and perhaps Funa will begin to have a good friendship again, like her friend, at least with that one friend.
Yeah, and I hope that they will all become better people. Her
Yeah,
friend, like her ex friends and herself as well, because apparently they've all been kind of like at least well maybe not the coolest people in school.
yeah.
Anyway, the last thing I have on Fushi is really just a gag with the computer, where
Oh,
he threw the
great.
whole computer screen away just to get rid of the photos. But it made me wonder, though, actually, if that actually got rid of the photos, because he only threw the screen away. Because I think in the panel where we see in the computer room, I think that you can see like the actual computer beneath the desk.
Oh, I thought it was a 2-in-1,
Right. I mean, like
but
I also thought about that. It could have been, but I thought
mhm.
I saw something that looked like a computer beneath the desk there. And if that's the case, then obviously he wouldn't have gotten rid of the photos. So
And to be fair, I am very curious about what that folder was that you wanted deleted. I mean, I kind of have a guess, but it would be great if that plot point comes back,
mm, mm,
and maybe that helps Mizuha and Izumi fix their broken relationship.
true, true.
Um, do you think Fushi could replicate the computer? Like, let's say it was a 2-for-1. Could he just bring it back,
Yeah,
memory and all?
I think so.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say yes because that would just be more fun.
But I think no. I mean, I think it would also be funny if the PC was actually below. It was still there.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
True.
I think that'd be pretty funny too. It's like, oh, goofball. But yeah, it would make also sense. Wait, it would also make sense. There you go.
Mm.
If he was able to just automatically, bring back the PC.
Right. And without like still without understanding how it works, but still like
Yeah.
it's a perfect replica anyway. Like 'cause I definitely could see that being the case potentially.
Yeah.
But anyway, is that all on Fushi?
Yep.
Then let's move on to Mizuha. So yeah, the poor girl is just so confused and so lost, and like yeah,
Hmm.
sure she's a bit creepy at times, but I just can't help but feel for her so much. Like especially in that first chapter in this volume,
Yeah.
where like she like right after she came back from the knocker having been in control, and well as we talked about her reaching out to Fushi and getting her hand slapped away, like
Hmm.
obviously Fushi did that kind of out of fear because he didn't know what was like who he was talking to and like who was in control and all of that. But for Mizuha, like just from her perspective, that must just be so confusing and heartbreaking, kind of.
Mm. Yeah, and it was.
Yeah, yeah.
It was basically like, I guess in her mind, her crush rejecting her,
Mm-hmm.
which you know, in regular middle school, she's in middle school, right? Or is it high school? Middle school?
I just checked the character index, and it says that she's a second year junior high school student.
So it's not third year, but second year. Because I remember them saying, "Oh, the first years are really happy you gave you the hair ties."
Right.
I
True.
was like, "Well, they definitely don't look like high schoolers." Anyway,
True.
the typical kind of romantic drama that may happen in that age, but you're dealing with a very supernatural being.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting concept, obviously. But anyway, going back to your first point about how I feel Mizuha, in the previous volumes, I was much more sympathetic to her, and I'm still sympathetic to her to a degree because it's really messed up life that she's living and the whole situation.
Mm.
Um, it's just kind of the curse of, the Hayase curse in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just, I get a lot of red flags from her, and I mean, obviously, they're right here. She's messed up. Like, there's a lot of issues,
Yeah.
and this volume in particular, it just kind of really shined to me. Now, I really like her character, and I think it's a fascinating character just from a literary perspective.
Hmm.
But like, as a person, I'm very wary.
No, understandable.
you know,
Mm.
but and some of it is, I think, it's kind of frustrating because she, instead of trying to address her pain, she's just trying to cover up with a band-aid, like just like with cold medicine. And it rubs me the wrong way, but I understand that that's the point. She has to learn this eventually, but it just frustrates me that she's letting herself stay in this position.
Yeah, like even after she learns the whole thing about the Knockers,
Right,
as she like at the end of this book, she's well aware of all of that, but she
right.
still kind of doesn't really mind it. And as you said, like she uses it as cold medicine, but I feel like that, well, related to what I said earlier, like with the whole controlling people thing,
Hmm.
Mizuha says like kind of near the end of the book that she wouldn't mind being completely controlled by Fushi. To me, that made it sound like she was kind of admitting to the Knockers controlling her, in some way. Like it is like it's a bigger deal than she made it out to be earlier in that scene.
Hmm.
Like it's like the Knockers do have a greater effect on her than just cold medicine, which by the way I need some right now. But anyway, no, it's like yeah, I don't know. I feel like it might be a bit of a stretch. Like that the fact that well, she basically wants to be controlled by Fushi. Her saying that, or like she even says completely controlled by Fushi, or she says she wouldn't mind it. I guess to be precise, um, as if he would be a substitute for the Knockers controlling her. Essentially, is kind of how I'm reading her there, and that makes it seem like they are controlling her more than she wants to admit. Perhaps. What do you think?
Maybe I think I see it as replacing her current prescription for a new one that she wants more.
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Knockers can give her the diluted pain that she wants, but in her mind, Fushi would be the ultimate replacement, the ultimate anesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as the controlling aspect, part of me wondered if that was just like some strange sexual fantasy on her
Oh
part.
no.
I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of sexual tension in that one scene, and I guess the
Mm.
Knocker was doing it, but that was another part where it kind of went back and forth between the Knocker and her, and it was hard to tell
Regardless, yeah, it was hard to
exactly.
say. Yeah, like, hard to tell who
Right.
was in control. Like,
Um,
yeah.
but I I mean, I think there's no denying that she would rather have Fushi be the one that eases her pain than the Knockers.
Hmm.
But I also don't think that she particularly cares that they are quote unquote using her.
No, it doesn't
Um,
seem that way.
yeah, like it works out for her.
Right.
I guess is what her thinking is.
Yeah.
She's poisoned by the lie they have created,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand why she wants to keep living the lie, but it
Yeah.
can't be good for her in the end. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
it seems that it just will only worsen her mental state. At least
Yeah.
that's what it feels like by the end of this volume. Like she's just
Mm-hmm.
spiraling at this point.
Right. Yeah. It's not like a permanent solution. It's rather like it's a temporary solution to a permanent problem that's not going to fix itself. Like she
It's just
needs
making it
to.
worse.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like over time, it definitely is getting worse. And I think a similar thing is like a similar kind of lie that she more like kind of embraces is about her mother, like where she chooses
Yeah,
her fake mother over her real one, even though
absolutely. I think
she
that's the biggest one.
knows. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And it's just like that was just a really really sad situation. I thought understanding that like not just in general, but also like also seeing her mother's Fi there, also witnessing that, which was also just like kind of added to the sadness.
Hmm. I mean, was her mom terrible? Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
we talked about this before,
Hmm.
but again, it's not great to keep living this lie, especially when you know for a fact that these are not real people. You know, these are more or less, puppets,
Hmm.
and, or at least her mom is. And yeah, it's frustrating to see. And I hope that Mizuha eventually comes to the awakening that this can't be right.
Uh-huh.
It would be really disappointing. I mean, I guess it could be pretty tragic, but it'd be disappointing if she ends up dying at some point in order to keep the lie from going away.
Ooh,
Like
oh my God.
I don't think the story will go there, but if you wanted to tell a tragic story, that could be one way. I know death is such a, you know, cop out, but I don't know. I think that'd be kind of tragic,
I feel like that would defeat the purpose of the message, kind of
right?
in the story right now.
I agree. I
If that
agree.
happened, like it would be too sad. Like there's a difference between sad and like incredibly just hopelessly sad. I think that would be too much.
Hmm.
But anyway, by the end of this volume, she kisses Hana and implies that she has romantic feelings for her, which
Yeah.
was interesting. Like obviously, it seems to have been made pretty clear that she has feelings for Fushi, obviously. But we did talk about the potential of this ship, I think, back in our
Right.
volume 13 discussion.
Yeah. Uh, Mizuha Hana shippers rejoice? Maybe.
Maybe,
You
or
know,
maybe, probably not,
I mean,
actually.
I hope people, yeah, right. I hope people take this moment and don't run with it as, oh, my ship is real or something like, because it's really not healthy what happens. And
Not at all.
obviously, yeah,
Mm.
what happens next is she, just tears her down basically,
Yeah,
and friendship is in question,
that made it even more confusing, like the whole
right?
scene.
I, you know, at this point, and I'm not saying I wouldn't like support it or anything like that. I'm still have an open mind because I'm trying to figure out exactly where their relationship could be.
Hmm.
But Mizuha's not in her right mind, and yeah, it doesn't seem to me uh, at all genuine.
Yeah, it just came so out of the blue, first of all, and then
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess it's possible to be crushing on multiple people at once, sure,
True,
but still, it's
sure.
like I don't know.
Well, and to be fair, maybe the crush was there before Fushi came along.
Right.
Um, we're not exactly sure about that. But then what about the whole Yuki thing? Was that are we just putting that off to the side? Was that they kind of have that odd the I guess interaction in previous volumes? Was that nothing? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's also the possibility that a lot of the stuff previously in the story, before we learned about the knocker in her could have been her knocker saying things.
Gosh.
It, like when she said, I think it was in volume 13, she said to Hana that her crush was somebody in their club, which kind of narrowed it down to either Yuki or Hana. And I think we
Hmm.
talked about that then, but
Hmm.
there is still the possibility that that might have just been something that the knocker made up to kind of, I don't know, to make it exciting for Hana or something. I don't know.
So, well, that's the thing. Like, do you think? Well, I guess we'll save it when we talk about Hana. We'll wait a bit. But
Okay.
I guess I'll just say that it feels like this girl has a lot of sexual tension. Like she has a lot of
Mm.
somewhat sexual desires. I mean, because I guess it was the knocker that was getting really close on Fushi.
Well, we can't say for sure. it's very possible. I think that it might have actually been Mizuha.
Either way, it does feel like that she has a lot of pent up frustration, and maybe she's trying to get that out uh,
Mm.
in some sort of sexual way. But and maybe that translated into what she did to Hana. Um, I don't I don't know. I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a possibility.
Do we know for sure that Mizuha was the one that said those terrible things to Hana? Does she really truly
Right.
believe all those things?
Exactly.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's really hard to say. Yeah, she's just really like sure, the knocker is messing her up to a big extent, of course. But I think there's also like more deeply rooted just mental issues that just by themselves are a really big part of her struggle as well. I think. So it's like it's a combination of two very major things on her mind right now, and just it really is messing her up.
Yeah.
Anything more on her?
Nope.
All right, then let's talk about her knocker, and I guess the knockers in general. But let's start about talking about her knocker.
Okay.
I thought it was really interesting to find out that the knocker in her arm is actually the same one that was in Hayase and in all of Hayase's descendants
Yeah.
that Fushi
Wow.
met. But also to learn that it had been in paradise after it died with Kahaku and then came back to go inside of Mizuha. So like between Kahaku and Mizuha, no one had that knocker in their arm. Yeah, that was probably my like the thing about that knocker specifically that I thought was the most interesting that we learned in this book.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Because
Mm.
literally jumped to the fire. How it would survive all those years is in, you know, unfathomable. Really, well, I guess we're talking about a fantasy kind of show, um, but I think it makes sense that it would come back in that way. Although it brought up like reincarnation. I was able to keep my memories. It's like, oh, plot armor. No, but
Mhm.
uh,
True, actually, that's true.
but no, it makes sense that that knocker would come back. It seems that knocker in particular is very passionate, very
Mm.
stalwart.
Yeah, and it seems to have followers, like people that kind of cheer it on, or like knockers, I should say, that cheer it on
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah. It makes you wonder if there could be potentially anybody else pulling the strings, like from Paradise. But it seems to
Mm.
imply that they're all just similar thinkers, and this knocker in
Yeah.
particular, after its years of using Hayase's lines, her descendants, has just gained a lot of notoriety and just has impressed the other knockers. So now they
Mm.
kind of look to it as a leader, I guess.
Right. That makes it even more scary.
Still interesting.
Yeah.
There was that panel where the knockers were up in paradise, but they were in their like kind of you know plant-ish form, the one that is edible, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what is that? What is that substance, and how are they living in this theoretical paradise? I don't know. It's really hard and confusing to think about, so I'm not going to do that. But
Well,
maybe it'll be explained one day.
actually, like a thought came to mind: if the knockers can leave paradise just like that and just come back
Hmm.
to the physical world, uh, shouldn't that also mean that people who have gone to paradise should be able to do that too? Because they're all Phi after all, and I think it was established in the previous book that all Phi are equal. So
Hmm.
if knocker Phis can leave paradise and go back, then shouldn't also human Phis be able to do that? Um,
Well, I think Knockerfi are technically human.
well, right,
Like
Phi is the same as Phi, so but like
right.
that, like it's all the same. But then the thought came, like I thought that perhaps the only way for a Phi to leave paradise is in the form of a knocker. I think
Hmm.
that's at least at this point seems relatively safe to say.
I think that, yeah.
But then I figured that maybe that is the way for a knocker to be created. Maybe all knockers come from paradise, which might also mean that the knockers, like that all knockers used to be people or animals, I guess, but like something
Hmm.
that wasn't initially a knocker, or like something that wasn't initially opposing life at some point in their past. before returning, from paradise as Knockers. And
Hmm.
I think whenever it was like volume 9 or 10, whenever it happened, when we learned that the Knockers are Phi, I had a like my speculation was basically that all the Knockers used to be a living thing that wasn't a Knocker before becoming a Knocker. Uh, Obviously, I don't think it's confirmed yet, but I think it's far more possible now than it was back then. That all of them used to be living things that went to paradise and then came back to Earth as Knockers.
I mean, I think that's a strong possibility.
Mm.
I mean, it's hard to say. I think the paradise is just the place where Phi reside, whether they've been to Earth or not. But I think it would make sense for Phi to have gone to Earth, to come back and be like, no, that was terrible, and then just become Knockers instead.
Right, exactly. Like to have that experience, and in order to have a strong opinion, makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
Then again, I have no idea.
No, yeah, it's not completely clear yet. Last time, I think we speculated about the Knockers, kind of, or at least a lot of the Knockers, maybe all, whatever, working to help Mizuha in various ways, and I think we got that pretty much confirmed in this volume. So that guy in the last book, who all of his teeth dropped out and he like a lot of his bones were broken overnight. I think it's
Hmm.
pretty safe to say at this point that that was the doing of the Knockers in order to, well, in their way, assist Mizuha, I suppose.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, and another thing is the fact that it was the Knocker who killed Izumi. The Knocker took
yes.
control
Mm.
and killed her. I think that was something that we weren't exactly sure on, and I had theorized among other things that was one of the possibilities, but
Uh-huh.
that turned out to be true.
Yes.
But again, like I had guessed like a few other things, so it was
Fair.
kind
Fair.
of like you guess enough times, you'll get one of them right. Um, but yeah, I think it just makes more sense that the Knocker would have done that versus Mizuha. Although Mizuha at this point, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't put it past her at this point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um,
I don't know.
but anyway, yeah, it's messed up that the Knockers can just take control of people, take control of their entire lives,
Mm-hmm.
and people be practically unaware of it.
Yeah. And actually, something that's kind of related to that, I think, is, and this is a thought that I've had since before this volume came out, but it's, well, I guess I got the thought at some point after we recorded our previous discussion, so that's why it hasn't been recorded. It's basically that the Knockers infesting humans might be a metaphor for mental illness. At least
Hmm.
I could see that as being the intention, at least on some level, and how that is something that a lot of people that suffer from any kind of mental illness often were not aware of it. Perhaps, like, I think that's a common thing, sadly. So that's like one similarity with that. And also, I mean, they do make their lives bad, even though at the surface level, it kind of they're kind of there to help out, like they kind of improve it. But ultimately, and as we talked about before, like in the long run, it definitely doesn't seem to be a good thing. So yeah.
I think that's a good or a potential parallel. Like
Mm.
yeah, I could definitely see it.
My last thing on the Knockers was that, well, before Funa's Knocker was killed by Satoru, seeing her buy the drink from the grocery store and just really enjoying that drink by herself, I thought was really interesting because she didn't need to put up an act in that scene. There wasn't anyone around when she was enjoying her drink, and when she like even like made a comment about how like good it was and how she wanted to buy another one again sometime.
Hmm.
And that kind of makes me think that, well, maybe, like, I guess, sure, just the fact alone that they're taking over somebody else's body, that's bad in and of itself, but perhaps there is still hope for some Knockers, that maybe not all Knockers are just this evil thing, that maybe some actually are more human like in their way of being or living, kind of, perhaps.
I see it as what the beholder Saruman Satoru said. Um, in that they're like a bunch of kids who are playing with a doll, you know,
That's
and
a good
so they're
point.
experiencing certain things, and you know engaging in life as a doll, as as they play house or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah, that is a really good point. I think that's probably the case actually. Now that you mention it.
But I guess you can never, because definitely when the volume, was it last? No. I think it was the other last volume or the volume before, the way it ended, um, with Mimori's Nokker dying. I had wondered if there were, especially Funa's Nokker, were there Nokkers that had more human like quality, like are they more benevolent than I thought?
Mm.
Um, but I think that same chapter, that you were just talking about, kind of proves that that's not the case.
Yeah.
At
Well,
least
yeah, true.
that she's not benevolent. Like definitely trying to do something nefarious.
Yeah. Although she is going after like she wasn't trying to kill any humans there technically.
I I mean, still killing someone.
Killing the beholder, yes, it's terrible. But yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, and he's trying to be human.
true. That's true. Yeah. No, I mean I agree. She absolutely is evil.
But that's the thing. Like a few volumes ago, I was like, well, maybe not. Like I don't know. But now I'm kind of like,
Mm.
yeah, never mind.
Yeah. I think that the big difference is that I think it was like rather than thinking of Funa's Knocker as gooder than Mimori's, it's rather that Mimori's Knocker is badder than Funa's.
Well, I guess it's more. I think it's more so that Knocker went out of line, like went back to like the old ways of just
Oh
harassing
yeah,
people. But
true.
according to Mizuha's Knocker, is like they're trying to change that. We're doing a different
Hmm.
more coexisting, and I guess she wanted to keep everybody in line in that kind of sense. But
Yeah.
so the guarding cult, that whole thing is disturbing
Oh, absolutely.
because Mimori brings in a body, like an entire body of Fushi.
Hmm.
I don't remember where she got that from. I remember she had bits and pieces of him, but did she
I thought
find a body as well?
my when I saw that, I thought that she had gotten her hands on the body that Fushi left during one of their encounters in the previous volume.
Ah, I forgot about
I
that.
think when they were fighting at the school, I'm pretty sure Fushi left a body that was taken in like by an ambulance or something because obviously people thought it was someone who was unconscious. Um,
Yeah.
and I think somehow she was able to get her hands on that. Is my thinking at least.
Oh, okay. So we never saw her take it.
No, no, I don't think we ever
So we're just
saw.
assuming it.
We saw her taking like whatever. What was it, like an arm and like the wolf tail or something like that.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Right, right. But we never saw her take the full body. But I'm gonna think that she somehow got her hands on that other body that he left behind.
Okay.
I think.
And so their goal with all this is trying to figure out where his life resides.
Yeah,
Is that why they want the body?
that might be it. Or yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting.
Mm.
And why specifically are they trying to find where his life resides?
So they can kill him, I guess, permanently.
Yeah. I mean that's what Yuki's hypothesizing, and I think he's
Mm.
right.
I think so too.
Yeah, so the thoughts that the Knockers could potentially be good, after this volume, nope, out the drain.
Yeah. No,
They are
I'm
clearly, trying to ruin this world to match their vision, and Fushi's not part of it.
uh-huh. Yeah, I totally agree.
So when Knockers are in charge, they heal. Uh, so it's not that the Knocker is there and it heals the pain for them. It takes control and heals. So if
Mm.
someone is bleeding and it doesn't heal automatically, then that means the Knocker's not there.
Right.
Versus vice versa, which is I guess how it went with Mizuha as an example when she was cooking and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then the last thing is that we got the terms for carrier, half merged, and fully merged in
Exactly.
terms
Right.
of Knockers.
Yeah. Some good terms to know at this point.
Mm-hmm. That's all I got.
Cool. Me too. Then let's move on to Izumi then. And obviously it was really great to get her backstory here and
Absolutely.
and thanks to that we're obviously able to understand her far better. And it's actually kind of similar to Shoko's mother in Yoshitoki Oima's other manga, A Silent Voice. Not the backstory itself isn't similar, but the fact that we we get to understand the perspective and kind of the history of a mother had who had appeared to be very very bad person. Uh,
Hmm.
by the way, quick little tangent there. I think in one of our previous discussions, somewhere in the middle, I guess, I think I mentioned that we had plans on covering a silent voice on the podcast eventually. However, that's not really the case anymore, at least not at this point, since I guess our new focus has been to kind of focus on manga that are currently ongoing, so that we can catch up with them, and then once we are caught up with them, we cover a new volume whenever a new one releases. So, and seeing as a silent voice has been over for quite a while, it's not really in the plans right now, at the very least. But anyway, back on Izumi. Yeah, just the whole cult stuff that we talked about just really kind of creeps me out.
Yeah.
And I felt really sorry for her, like not just her dad, like dreadful father, and also like her husband who was just lying to her and acting really,
That was really a gut check moment.
uh-huh. Just and she must have felt so alone, and like I'm sure she did. And that was obviously I definitely felt sorry for her, even though I'm not forgiving her later actions in life, but still it's just
No.
a terrible life that she led, of course.
I mean, Yoshitoki Oyama, she's really good at making you sympathize for the terrible mother.
She is. She really is.
um, and I think people deserve a chance to change and to see the error of the ways and try to. And look, sometimes it doesn't work out in real life, but sometimes it does. Sometimes people really do change for the better, and I think that's our dream: is
Yeah.
the people that we care for, particularly people that are part of our family, can change and become better.
Yeah.
And maybe step by step. But that's what you want for Izumi and her family. I would hope so.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned the father. I remember one of my strange theories was that he was like not loyal or cheating on her. Uh, Obviously, that's not the case, but he was dishonest. Like
Yeah, he was
there
absolutely
was
lying.
something sketchy about him.
Uh-huh. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and I did not see that one coming. To me, he just seemed
Not that, yeah.
like
Hmm.
in my mind, I thought he was just going to be a character that was kind of going to be in the background, like not anything specific. But and obviously he might still just be more a background character.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
right.
still to have that, well, to know that about him just really, makes me hate him. Although he was also not purely bad, because he suggested that they give Mizuha more time to make friends and less time, for training at her various things. So that was obviously a good suggestion, even though he, I guess, has other terrible views.
Not to say that I think he's a terrible person, but you know, the the brainwashing is real, and it is disturbing that you would use a child like that in that way. And obviously,
Mm.
what Mizuha, or excuse me, what Izumi ended up doing was, basically um, exactly what the cult would have done anyway. So it's kind of sad to see that her fall into that
Mm.
whole, uh, I guess, lifestyle trap, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, I think the cult would have done something similar anyway.
True.
Maybe not to the extreme that Mizuha took it, or excuse me, Izumi took it,
Mm-mm.
but still, yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
terrible situation for that poor child.
Really is. Really is. But something that I thought was pretty interesting is that Izumi, like what we learn about her in this volume, while she definitely is we still think of her as a bad mother in a lot of ways. She apparently isn't quite as bad, I guess, as we thought in volume 13 when we had just started to get to know her.
Hmm.
For the two reasons that we learn related to the Nokker taking control of her was that how you know she had memory losses and stuff, and
Right.
like it wasn't actually that, as we I think we read it in volume 13, that
Hmm.
she I guess just didn't care enough about her daughter, and that's why she didn't remember all of the things. That wasn't actually the case. She actually had memory gaps because the Knocker took control from time to time. And the other thing about, well, taking photos of her daughter's
Right.
like achievements and stuff like that also had a good reason behind it. So at least it's good to know that. So I guess she's slightly better than what we thought back then, but still, obviously not like far from an ideal mother still. But yeah.
No, totally. But those picture taking, it gave a really a bad impression. You
Yeah.
know, I thought she was very hungry for the social media attention.
Mm.
That wasn't the case.
Hmm.
You know, it seems like she was just trying to remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, I appreciated that fact. I was very, um, I felt like I felt bad that I had treated her or thought bad of her
Mm.
uh, at that time. Not to say that I think she was okay. She definitely went too far and was a bad, terrible mother for her. But you know, it goes to show that sometimes we don't understand the full picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great example of that.
I really hope she doesn't give up on Mizuha because
Yeah.
when you see her in the moment watching Mizuha just accept and embrace the fake Izumi,
Mm.
it is just gut wrenching.
Yeah.
Just the tears streaming down her face,
Hmm.
and then later on in the diner, she's just like, I don't care anymore. Like,
Yeah.
there's no point. She doesn't want it, and it does kind of it made me feel despair. Like, no, like you can't give up. Like,
Yeah.
let it end this way. Um,
Yeah.
so I hope she doesn't go on to paradise like she says. I hope she comes back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I really hope so too. Because at the end of, or at like the last we saw of her in this book was that she said, "Thank you, I'll think about it," and then she just wandered off, kind of laughing to herself. And I guess I dreaded a bit, like the thought of that being her walk, like going to paradise right there. I really hope that wasn't the case, but I could maybe slightly see it potentially as a thing. I ultimately, though, I'm choosing to think that she wasn't. But what do you think about that scene?
Oh, it could be interpreted that yeah, she moves on to paradise from there.
Uh huh.
I don't want that to be the case though.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't, because it would just feel so sad for her. And
Yeah.
I I know you have the consequences of your actions. I understand that, and I feel like she is already experiencing those consequences. So surely she can get the opportunity to change. And I know it all depends on if I think Izumi would be willing to forgive Mizuha for choosing the fake mom over her.
Yeah. Or she should be able to forgive that at least. I think.
It's just, can Mizuha get to the point where she can forgive her mother
Yeah.
for the way she raised her?
I think that's a harder
You know,
question, or like a bigger
yeah,
question.
bigger question. That's basically what is gonna come down to.
Mm. Hopefully, the next volume will give some answers to this.
Yeah.
Anything more on Izumi?
Nope.
Then moving on to Tonari. We get some more fuel for the Tonari Fushi shippers. Well, for us,
Ship
I guess.
is heating up. Ship is heating up.
Yes. Well, especially from Tonari's side, I think.
Yeah. Well,
like we
mostly.
definitely right. Yeah, definitely mostly. And like, yeah.
Maybe all.
Her true. Yeah, yeah. I guess you're completely right. Yeah, from her side, we definitely see that. Like some feelings are for sure starting to develop or continuing to develop, perhaps.
Man, she's blaming her feelings on being a kid again. It's like, girl, don't be acting like you weren't blushing 500 years ago. You know,
Right.
like, come on. But no, it's definitely one of those relationships I want to see grow.
Yeah. Mm.
I can get behind it if it turns out to be a thing. But
Mm.
obviously, Fushi is the factor here. You know, is he ever gonna understand what love is? Like, he still doesn't understand what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I hope that like
And
maybe not in this arc, but maybe like the
mhm.
like well in some future arc, I would love to see that explored more again. I mean, because it was explored back in like like the Bonjin era, like
Right.
but hasn't really been touched on
Well,
since then.
and honestly, no. It was touched on just a couple of volumes ago.
Oh,
Like,
actually,
he's like,
yes,
I
you're
want to
right.
know what love is. Like, teach me, what it be my teacher. And I really thought that we were gonna go through kind of a love arc, but
Yeah.
we've definitely gone away from that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I don't know why I said we hadn't seen that since then. You're absolutely right. We totally have. But yeah, I guess I'm probably not expecting it right here in the story, but I'm definitely probably expecting it later in the story. And I think the Fushi Tonari ship would be really sweet. especially since she's been around for so long.
Yeah. Granted, we do see Mizuha a few times, and probably her Nokker too, express or just say, I love you to Fushi, and
Mm.
commanding him to love her. So there is that theme of love
Yeah,
happening. There's no understanding happening, or no one, at least from Fushi's point of view, there isn't a lesson to be learned quite yet.
true.
But I hope eventually it gets to that point
For
that
sure.
he's like, this is what love is, and then maybe he's the one who teaches Mizuha. That could be interesting,
Ooh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's also interesting
and not
with
romantically speaking, but
oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But from the side of Mizuha, it's like I think it's pretty safe to say that her just kind of automatic romantic feelings for Fushi are because of the knocker in her arm. Because that
mm.
if or
or maybe Hayase.
Hayase's Fi, that's right. Oh my god, why I somehow hadn't thought about Hayase's Fi for like I guess since last time we recorded.
It's been a long time.
Oh my god, yes. Oh my yeah, you're right because yeah. So scratch the thing about the arm or the knocker. Yes, like she surely has Hayase's Fi in her, which has just kind of I guess automatically passed on through the generations since those days. I guess, and obviously with that she kind of doesn't have a choice in having romantic feelings for Fushi. That's just kind of what she was born with. So I guess in that sense you could call that love a like not completely real love potentially. And if Fushi would learn real love eventually, then maybe he could somehow talk to Mizuha and make her understand that what she's feeling isn't, I guess, her own feelings or really what love actually is, or something like that, perhaps. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I think it'd be a nice twist. Either way, I definitely want Fushi to learn it in this arc eventually.
Okay. Oh yeah. I'm gonna say next arc, wherever the arcs shift.
Well, next. Well, I mean, yeah. When I say arc, I meant this part of the story.
Right.
Like this. Time frame.
Right. Yeah. And
I don't know how long we're gonna be here. We're probably gonna be here a while, but
I would like to see like a short time skip in this era, like 4 or 5 years or something like that, kind of like we saw with Gugu and Reen.
That could be interesting because then you have Sotorugan.
Exactly. Or maybe like we see the end of him, like we see like the last months or something of his life. I think that would be cool. I think that would be needed, honestly.
How do you have a time skip with Mizuha in this state? Like you just go about life and she's just this psychotic. I don't know.
Maybe she improves a little bit, or maybe she doesn't. Maybe things are just hell for another several years. I don't know.
Anyway,
we were talking about
back
Tonari.
to Tonari.
Yeah.
I do think, or I appreciate her apologizing. Although I do think Fushi was also at fault for his kind of tactlessness situation, But I appreciate Tonari understanding where Fushi was coming from and reaching out to apologize and whatnot.
For sure. And even reaching out to help. Like it was much more than just apologizing. And she really made an effort. Like I think, didn't she kind of go after him twice in that same scene, I think. Yeah. So she really showed that she is there for him. And I think that was really nice of her.
I loved how she expressed that Fushi is a part of her life. It's an important part of her life.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yeah, it was really good.
I mean, honestly, that's what love is. And that's not just Tonari, but Gugu and March and everyone over there. They love Fushi. That's what love is. If only he could see that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, love is selfishness. It's possession. It's so what do you call it?
Yeah.
That's not your love or whatever.
Yeah. But on like the possession thing and like thinking of others as your property or whatever, I think that was something that Tonari was also a lesson that she had learned in this volume, that Mia, Upa, and Uroi weren't her property. She expressed that, and kind of on the contrary, Mizuha, or perhaps the Nokker Insider. I guess again at this point it's kind of hard to tell sometimes, but Mizuha / her Nokker have not learned that lesson about Fushi. Like they still think of Fushi as their property at least to some extent. But it was good to see that Tonari had actually learned that lesson in this volume, and it was, I guess, nice to get kind of that perspective on that thing and to see these two very different characters with slightly similar pasts, I suppose, but like that have come to two different conclusions, basically.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Tonari's somewhat acting as a foil for Mizuha.
Yeah.
Not completely, but I think there's definitely those comparisons to be made.
Yep. Anything else on Tonari?
No.
Then moving on to Yuki Aoki. I really love Yuki for being like so okay with seeming like a fool,
Right.
if it helps like in his investigation, and like he did great in this volume. Like not only
yeah.
was it like the handshake thing was great, how he was able to figure out some stuff by that, but also like the earthenware pot revelation was amazing. Like he did a fantastic job there.
Absolutely.
And also, I'm just really happy that we got some more earthenware info now.
I know.
Like so much so far later.
Yes. I was so, I don't know, like I felt like it was never going to happen. We
Yeah.
didn't get any sort of more information on that.
Yeah.
But now we're getting a little bit more, and I think this opens up the potential that maybe we'll understand better why exactly they have this power. Maybe not, but still, it's a fascinating way to communicate. You know, clutch move by Yuki.
Yeah.
Kind of fell out of nowhere, but you know, you just take it as they come, man.
No, I think it made like the point he made about the earthenware pot kind of being interesting to him, because since we know since volume 13 that he has this strong interest in the occult, so I thought it made sense that he would.
Oh
like
no,
to
it made sense that
investigate
he would. Yeah, I agree. It makes sense that he would. It was just, you know, he just appears out of nowhere. It's like, I have the answer to this. It's like, where did this come from?
That's fair.
But yes, no, it makes sense that he'd be thinking about that. No, I totally agree.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, I think he's proving to be quite capable,
Absolutely.
and he's growing on me at every chapter. I still want to see a little more maybe character growth from him instead of just being a very helpful ally, which he is incredibly helpful, and I appreciate him for that.
Yeah.
But it would be great to see, I don't know, him overcome something, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it comes down to Mizuha and being there for her potentially. But you know that I'm not sure where that plot thread is going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And like, because his character so far has really been a combination of, as you said, like a helpful ally who at least, and especially in this volume, came with some really good contributions.
Yeah.
It's like a combination of that and like a comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't really given us, well, it hasn't really given him too much depth as a character. So I'm really,
Right.
I agree with you that it would be nice to get some more, maybe see him struggle more, like see whatever there is. And I think there's good opportunity for that regarding his feelings for Mizuha. I just don't think it has been enough explored so far.
Right. Absolutely. I guess talking about the pot and the communication in general, you know, they have that form to keep the Nokkers from, I guess, hearing their thoughts or their plans or whatever. So that's great. It does make me wonder again, why can the earthenware people communicate that way?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it have to be that shape? Could it? I mean, what could you do it with the mud ball? You know, like they polish the mud ball, and if they are thinking about their thoughts as they do it,
oh my god,
could there be a message there?
I was thinking, like, I was wondering if that shiny mud ball would have some kind of relevance in the story moving forward, but I couldn't think of anything. But dude, I think that's a really interesting possibility with that. Huh.
I think that'd be really cool. Like,
it would be
kind of a way to bring it around.
Oh yeah, I really like that.
Unfortunately, you can't really express that to anybody except the earthenware people, so Echo and her brother's form.
Precisely. Yeah, so it's not.
So I don't know. Not how useful that would be.
Precisely, but still, I think it's like it's good at least.
Yeah.
Anything more on Yuki?
No.
So moving on to Hana then. Obviously, felt so sorry for her at the end of this volume.
Yeah, gosh.
Just because like being betrayed like that by someone you thought so highly of is just one of the worst feelings in the world, and so I really felt for her there, which is terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine she viewed Mizuha as kind of a best friend situation, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
possibly she had romantic interests that she didn't like. She didn't want to get in the way. I guess I just want to say that as a
oh,
possibility, even though
it's
it's
definitely a possibility.
mm, mm,
I mean, you look back to that one chapter all the way where they're in the infirmary, um, with the scraped knee or whatever it was,
mm,
and then they got really, really close at that point. But then again,
yeah.
that was Mizuha making that move, or maybe it was the Nokker. I don't know. I can't. Did Mizuha heal magically there? Do you remember, or was there still
uh,
when she got to the when Hana got to the um,
right.
nurse's room?
I don't think she did, if I recall.
Okay,
I think it took a while for that to heal, or at least a little longer than like it didn't heal instantly. At least I don't think.
gotcha.
Mm,
So yeah, maybe it was all Mizuha there. But
mm,
anyway, uh, yeah, it's hard to say exactly what's going on there. But
yeah.
either way, she definitely respects and I guess has feelings for Mizuha, at least friendship wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At least that
And
for sure.
that hurt her big time
Yeah.
to hear those terrible things.
Yeah. And about her, like she has been largely in the background, I think, in the last couple volumes.
Yeah,
But with this happening at the end of this volume, I'm really hoping for her role to be to get more focus in volume 17. I think would be really nice because she is well out of the new characters. She is one of my favorite new characters. It's just that she got a pretty good role in the volume 13, but in 14 and 15 she didn't have too much, and not in this one either. So I'm really hoping to see more of her again in 17.
I agree. I just think that her and Yuki could use more, but I'm thinking particularly Hana, especially where it left off. It would be nice to see just more of her character and maybe how, or at least the conclusion to this. I'm sure we will. Like I
Yeah.
don't think she's gonna leave it just hanging like that.
Oh
But
no, I really hope
um,
not.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
I guess it just comes down to well, it comes down to will they be able to build back their relationship, and
yeah.
then also is there any romantic feelings from Hana or
Mm,
even Mizuha? Like, what exactly is up with all that?
right.
You know.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. We need answers.
Hmm.
But should we move on to Mimori next?
Yeah.
Turns out her life pretty much returned to the way it was before the Knocker took over her
Yeah.
life.
Hmm.
Um, like both at school and at home.
Mm.
But she has become strong enough to endure through that, and like obviously it is incredibly sad, but she really is strong, and like especially for that age. Um, and like
That face she makes.
yeah.
Oh, you're really strong. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Oh, she's so cute, uh, and like yeah, for Fushi to kind of almost see her as a role model in that sense, like
Yeah.
just viewing her as such a strong person. I think that was really awesome.
I loved how she said, I used the knockers for my benefit and I used them and I won. It's like, oh, that's a great way to kind of look at it.
Yeah.
I granted I don't want it to ever be taken that, killing yourself is the right way to go because,
No, no.
it this is fantasy. Like it's not you're not coming back from that.
Nope.
But I do like the mindset that uh in this world you take the kind of tragedy that is the knockers infesting your body and you use it for your gain eventually. So
Right.
maybe maybe that will either it could change Fushi's perspective on the whole situation, or maybe that's something that he can help other people like their Phi
Mm.
help understand or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I did like that message.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, "Are you having fun?" He's like, "I'm gonna make it fun." It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
you go, Mimuri.
yeah. What a sweet child.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. I would love for her and March to be introduced to each other.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah,
I think they would get along.
yeah.
Anyway, is that it on her?
Yep.
Then a little bit on Satoru, the Beholder. So turns out that he can defeat knockers.
Why you always be lying?
Yeah.
You always be lying.
And like really well too, like super efficiently. He just like turn her into flour
Yeah.
and pull the core out, like set it on fire. Like what? Well, Fushi will be able to do that eventually too. But
And I guess, is this just another test for Fushi? Like, telling him that he can't do it,
yeah,
and then just helping him learn that eventually? Like, what's the whole point of it?
I
You know?
wonder. Yeah, he is shrouded in mystery. That guy, still.
Even when he's trying to become human, there's still a lot of mysterious things.
Absolutely.
It was either Bon or Yuki who mentioned that they weren't sure if the Beholder was telling the truth about not being able to stop the Knockers. If I remember correctly, like they were at a diner one time and they said that.
I see. Yeah, I don't remember that right now, but you absolutely might be right.
I could be. It's been a few months since I read that,
It has.
so I could be misremembered. However,
yeah.
If that was the case, I do think that they were on point. Like, it's clear that he can stop them, and I guess his reasoning is, why bother? Like, some people's lives are better with the Knockers doing that, and I guess it could just all be to goad Fushi into making a decision and growing, and maybe that's why he's allowing it just to happen like this. But it is interesting that despite having that power, he just kind of keeps silent until he absolutely needs to use it.
Yeah. And I also wonder how much effort Fushi's going to put in to try to get the Satoru to actually fight with him. I wonder, like, to what extent is that going to happen? Because I could see, I think there was one, I think, line where Fushi in this volume said, like, you're going to fight with us now, like, after having seen that. Or something along those lines, at least. So I wonder if he's going to continue kind of pushing for that at all.
Maybe. But you do see that he's kind of becoming more human as it goes on. Because usually you wouldn't think that he'd be afraid of some thunder. But he kind of has a little shudder.
Yeah.
There.
That was sweet.
So, yeah. I guess as the months go by, he'll become more and more human.
Yeah, exactly. And if that's the case, if there is like a time skip to 4 or so years in the future, like shortly before he's going to, I guess, become a human completely, how much more human is he going to be at that point?
Right.
So like with that in mind, it's probably not going to be like a switch being flipped, for him when he becomes a human eventually.
Yeah.
It's like he's going to kind of gradually become more human.
Maybe it's gradually he loses his powers, and then eventually he loses all memory of that previous life.
Right. Yeah, exactly. About his memories, he didn't seem to remember having told Fushi that he couldn't defeat Knockers. So I wonder if he's already started to lose some memories of his Beholder.
Good point.
Life.
Good point.
I didn't think of it in that way before now, but yeah, that's the pieces are falling together. Anything more on him?
No.
Then I don't have anything else on any other characters, but if you have anything, go for it.
Just 3 things about 3 different characters is the thing.
Yes.
Sumika, funny girl.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing more at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, she provides some good, sweet moment, and she's kind of gives us our glimpse at more wholesome Satoru.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love it.
Bon, great support as always.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be the only person that Fushi can ask for advice. I guess it's been this way for a while, but
yeah,
I hope Fushi gets to the point where he's talking to all of his friends and not just Bon. I know Bon is very useful because he can talk to the 5, but
right.
Yeah, it would be nice to spread the love a little bit.
Absolutely.
But still, very glad Bon's there.
Yeah.
Very helpful. And then Aiko, this child might as well be an adult already. Like,
yeah.
How is she's out there picking?
She's so great.
Picking trash. Like, this is my time to volunteer. Like,
she's gonna become like the next prime minister of Japan,
yeah.
or like something like that.
Oh, I could totally see it. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I love her.
That's all I got.
Cool. Then yeah, that's all on all of the characters from this volume. Great talking about To Eternity again, first of all, I just want to say. But also, let's talk about any predictions that we might have for Volume 17.
I think maybe it's obvious, but he'll go back to the house where his friends are and
Mm.
maybe see how they're doing with their lives. I don't know from there. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. Like, for example, with uh, Hana and um, Mizuha, are they
Mm.
gonna make up in some way or make out or
Yeah.
sorry, I
One
couldn't
or the other.
understand. Or just gonna continue to drift apart? I don't know.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, where does Mizuha go from here? I guess you could say,
Mm.
because she seems to be at a pretty low point. I mean, you would think killing her mother would be the lowest point, but
Uh-huh.
this is a pretty low point, and technically she didn't do that.
No.
But no, yeah, this is a very kind of desperate moment for her.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna guess that this arc is gonna be as long as, I guess you could say, if you look at it like bigger arcs, there were like the first 6 volumes were technically were kind of one arc ish. You could say,
Hmm.
kind of the Hayase and Pioran arc, because that's when they were around.
Yeah.
And then the 6 books after that, going up to 12, was like the Kahaku and Bon arcs, or like arc. And so I could see this being another 6 book thing, which means there would be 2 more books left of this, I guess, part of the story,
Hmm.
perhaps. And with that in mind, we are getting kind of close to the end of it. Like, just like the next book is going to be, or would in that case, be the second to last one. And so I think it makes sense for this to be like kind of a low point right here, and it definitely is, or feels that way. Uh, but I also agree, Fushi's gonna go back home, and I'm gonna definitely hope that he's gonna actually reach out to his friends and talk to his friends about everything that he's been going through once he gets home. Maybe not immediately, but I think in the next volume at least, he's going to finally do that, or at least that's what I hope.
Yeah.
Because he seemed to be in like much higher spirits, kind of at the very end of this book when he went home, or when he started to go home.
Right.
So it seems optimistic.
I agree.
Hmm. I don't have anything else on predictions.
Aside from the things we've kind of sprinkled out throughout the discussion, it's hard to say where we go from here. I mean, maybe I said that last time as well, but even the whole love concept, I'm not exactly sure where it goes right now. And that's the thing. Like, it definitely feels we're in a more of a psychological warfare slice of life type of thing. And I
Mm.
don't know. I kind of find those hard to predict sometimes.
Absolutely.
Um,
Mm.
aside from I guess a few story points, but
Yeah.
right
Uh,
now, yeah, it's definitely kind of up in the air.
For sure, yeah, because it's not like just be the strongest in the battle and win. Like, it's not that easy.
Right.
It's much more kind of in the mind, and
Hmm.
stuff like that makes it a lot harder. Well, not only for the characters, but also for us to predict it.
And there's quite a few characters here to focus on. So
True.
you know, where does it? Yeah, where does it go? Where does the focus lie?
Right. Yeah, like characters that haven't gotten as much, like we talked about Hana and Yuki. Really hope to see much more for them.
Right.
Obviously I don't want them to necessarily take away from other characters because of that, but I do think that, especially now that Hana's story is much even more kind of connected to Mizuha's, I'd say, or at least in a different way, it's connected to Mizuha now. I think there's a good chance that we can get content on both of them kind of simultaneously, perhaps.
Hmm. Last thing I'll ask: do you think the story will end, or this arc could potentially end with Mizuha's death? Do you think that, not just potentially, like, is it a, you know, just destined to die eventually,
Hmm. Like prematurely, you mean?
prematurely? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's a really hard question. I hope not, because I think, or well, if I'm gonna say this: if she dies prematurely, it's not gonna be suicide. It's gonna be something else.
Oh yeah, I agree with
I'm
that.
I'm gonna say she will not die from suicide, but there's still maybe a chance that she might die in some other way.
Hmm.
Mm, mm,
I think she's gonna go. She being the author is gonna go away from the death cycle for this for the Hayase if clan, I guess, or the descendants of Hayase. I think that at least after Kahaku, I think that left such an impactful moment
mm.
that with Mizuha, we'll see her change eventually, and I guess have her closure, come to grips with reality, and then the Knockers will try everything they can to kill her for whatever reason, but I think she will make it in the end and then be able to live the life that she is hopefully okay with, happy with.
Yeah, I really hope so. I really, really hope so.
And I guess I am hoping that, but I also feel like that's the direction the story will be going, although we are very much in dire straits right now.
True.
But I do think that that's the way the story will go.
Yeah.
Then again, this is the story that killed off main characters, like, every other volume for a while there.
Sure is. Yeah, but yes, I think that's it for this week, though. We don't always talk about this in our episodes, but we have a Discord server where an open Discord server in the video description on YouTube where anyone can join. We can talk more about To Your Eternity and any other manga that we want to talk about. Probably mostly the manga that we cover on the podcast, but we definitely talk about pretty much anything weeby on there.
Yep.
And it's been great, actually. Recently it's been growing and we've had some really good discussions on there, so please join us there. And if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time where we'll talk about Volume 17. Bye bye!
See you later!
Perfect.
Nice shot.
Nice on.
You got a spare.
Oh man, those were the days.
Good times. Good times.